So, I might have bitten off a little bit more than I could chew with this one. Let me show you all what I mean. We have a guitarist kit. This is the Harley Benton Telecaster style guitar kit. And I'm going to try and build this thing. Now theoretically this should be okay, because I have all of the experience I need to put all this shit together. This is just a box of electronics. That I can do. I can solder, I can wire things, all of that should be fairly easy. The issue is that I have zero experience woodworking, and so that's the part that scares me about this. But I just wanted to make a video showcasing what this is like for me, and hopefully it'll be entertaining. So let's get into it. So this is the neck. The headstock is kind of just a block right now, so I think one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the headstock down to size the way I want it. Fortunately, this guitar body does have some problems. The wood looks great. I mean, like, a lot of this, not really too many imperfections that I can see. The color's a little bit ashy in some places, but hopefully that'll even out with a good finish. And I am going to wood stain this, so hopefully that works its magic as well. The biggest issue, I think, is that this routing was not done very well. There's a lot of wood flakes rolling around in here, and this piece of wood split off, I'm guessing, when they were drilling the hole for the output jack. So that's a little concerning. I think it might interfere with the shielding paint, so I'm gonna have to try and remove this strip of wood, maybe smooth out these edges a little, and get a few coats of conductive paint in here, see if I can shield the guitar from noise. Alright, so I got the guitar body clamped down right now. I've just got some masking tape along the edges to delineate where I'm going to do the armrest cut, and I'm going to attempt to use the Shinto rasp to get some material off of here. We'll see how this goes. Never tried something like this before, so I guess we'll see.
3 days later.
Let's see. Just finished making the armrest cut, and I'm getting sawdust all over my pants by doing this, but damn, that actually feels pretty comfortable. Feels like I think this is the right depth of cut for me to rest my arm against and, you know, play. Shit, I think I actually did a thing. Let's go. I've masked out some of the contours of the belly cut. I'll follow this general contour. It's probably not going to be quite as straight as these lines are, but I'm just using them as a reference for now. Time to break out the rasp and get started. Alright, so here's the belly cut as it is now. I removed the masking tape. I think the cut is in a pretty good place right now. I think I'm just going to try and level it out a little bit more, make the transition from the curved part to the flat part a little bit smoother with some sandpaper. And I might do some freehanding with a Shinto rasp just to try and get this looking as smooth as it can. But other than that, I feel pretty good about it. I knocked out this cut in just under an hour, which I think is pretty good considering I was worried about this one because it curves. So yeah, I'm suitably proud of myself. Let me see what I can do with this to make it more ergonomic. Please hold. Yeah, there's definitely some pretty deep rasp marks in here. I don't know if you can see those, but they were left because I was cutting at a weird angle with the rasp as I was getting into this curved section here. These are going to take a while to sand out. I can do it, but it's going to take a second. I may even just leave them as a creative choice because I kind of like the kind of a rough aesthetic that this guitar has so far. It looks homemade and I really dig that. So I may just sand this as smooth as I can get and then leave the scratches, or I may try and sand them out, but either way it's going to take some time, so we'll see. Alright, here's a closer look at some of those scratches I was talking about. They're not super visible, and I actually quite like them. I think they add like a nice little cross grain to the wood almost, and I think I might leave them because I like the aesthetic of this guitar as like a, you know, a homemade guitar, and so I'm trying to embrace that a little bit more. I think I'm just going to sand them down enough that they won't create a tactile difference, and then I'll leave them as is, and we'll see how they show up once the wood is finished. Okay, so I think this belly cut is just about done. I've got her sanded out pretty smooth. Now I think this body is ready for finishing. I've just finished scrubbing her off. I think I'm gonna apply like a little test area right here under where the neck plate is gonna go so I can see how the color is gonna turn out. Might take a couple of coats, but we'll see. So we have some bad news, namely that I attempted to apply a small amount of wood stain onto this piece here where the neck plate is gonna go, just as a test to see how the color would take, and it actually didn't take at all. I think this is because the body has already been sealed with pore filler, which fills the pores in the wood. I was hoping that it wouldn't affect the stain, because some stains can go through that, but it appears that the stain that I have cannot. And so now I'm faced with a choice of trying to buy a different stain and hope that that one works, paint the body a solid color, or sand off the pore filler, which is going to take forever. And I think right now the best choice, in order to keep the wood grain and keep the overall appearance of the wood intact, is to sand all this off and then try the stain again. Which means that, unfortunately, the time it's going to take me to build this guitar just shot up by multiple days. But, I don't know. I want to feel good about where this guitar is at, and so I really want to try and make this the best I can. So I'm going to start sanding. It's going to take a really long time, but I will check back in a few days. Okay, all the pencil is gone, which means that I just got through one layer. Let's see, this still feels like it's finished. Definitely doesn't feel like the bare wood that's over on this side, so time to draw a new pencil layer and get to work. I have no idea how many layers this is going to take for me to get through this top layer of finish, but we will do our best. Alright, I think after about an hour of sanding later, this is what it's looking like. The color is a bit more ashen now, I think which is good because it's more closely approximating the color of the bare wood and the way that catches the light. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna have to do this for several more days until we get through this layer of finish, and then I can actually get a crack at the bare wood underneath. Okay, so I'm gonna clean this body up. I just finished sanding the back and the sides, which is what I'm going to attempt first to finish. So I'm going to wipe this down, and then we will do some finish tests and see if the color holds. Okay, that's the first coat of stain done. We're gonna wait for this to dry and then we'll come back to it, see how the color came out. Alright, so I've ended up doing 2 coats of stain so far. This is what the color's looking like now. It's the red notes are definitely still there, but it's definitely darker and more luscious overall. If I just bring this up, we can see the old color, which looks like that. So I think this new color is definitely an improvement. It's a lot richer, and I think it brings out, it complements the guitar a lot more. Holy shit. I'm so glad I sanded this whole thing, because the color's actually a lot better now. So basically, I'm trying to take care of the electromagnetic shielding right now. If I don't do this, it's going to just create a lot of buzz from other electronics in the vicinity that are going to, cause interference in the guitar electronics. So what I have to do is I'm using this shit to basically shield the walls of the guitar, any of the cavities, like, anything that might, all the walls around the circuitry, basically. So I'm using the paint to shield these small little cavities where the cables run through. And I think I'm going to go over a lot of these larger cavities. Like, you see I did this one with paint, but I think I'm going to go over it with copper tape. That's going to provide the best possible shielding and make sure that all this shit is fully insulated. applied a few coats of True Oil to this body. I've already done the first one. I don't know if you can see, but it's a bit glossier than it has been previously. Basically, all this stuff does, it's gonna add a bit of a protective layer. And it's gonna give it sort of a glossy finish. So I'm gonna go over this. I need to do some wet sanding later, make sure it comes out perfectly smooth, but otherwise it should be a pretty straightforward application. Alright, I'm gonna let this dry, come back to it in like 24 hours, and we'll see how it did. Alright, so while the body over there is drying, I'm probably just gonna see if I can file and recrown some of these fret ends. It was fine when I got it a month ago, but I think the wood has shrunk a little bit since then, so the metal's starting to sprout. So I'm gonna take a file of this, see if I can cut them down a little. I'm masking off the fretboard, doing it section by section, so I don't scratch the fretboard by accident. So we'll see how this goes. Currently, I'm doing some of the electrical shielding on the guitar using this shit. This stuff is a bit tougher to apply than the nickel paint, but it's going to provide better insulation. You can also see I've laid out the bridge and some of the parts here just so I can have a general idea of how much is going to be covered when they're in their final positions. I'm just going to see if I can get this last cavity done. I might go some of the more difficult areas with paint because the paint is easier to apply. And then hopefully we'll get some good shielding out of this. We'll see. Okay, so the shielding has been completed. As you can see, I finally have all of the electronics laid out, and I'm hoping that this will be the day where I can finally put this whole thing together. I'm hoping this is the last day I'm going to spend on building this thing, so I'm going to try and get the neck fitted, and I'm going to try and get all of the electronics installed. It is about, I think, like 1 o'clock right now, and hopefully by the end of the afternoon today I have a functioning guitar. So let's do it! Oh no, please tell me this lines up. Okay, I think that's the bridge installed. Hell yeah. I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to put on a string, probably the low E, just to make sure everything is aligned right, and that the neck is straight, because that's the part that I'm kind of worried about the most. So let me see if I can do that real quick. Okay, she's strung up, and I don't know about y'all, but that looks pretty straight to me. That's honestly the part I was most worried about. The neck wouldn't be properly aligned somehow, so that's a huge relief. Okay, so I have this pick guard that I'm planning to fit to the body. The only thing is, this pick guard is aftermarket. I didn't buy it with this kit, which means it doesn't quite line up exactly with these parts. So right now I'm just doing some dimensional adjusting with the sanding block to hopefully get this thing to a point where it fits on the guitar when all the parts are installed. Nice. Our pickup is now screwed in. This will be at about the right height. Yeah. I've got the pickguard adjusted, so it should fit. The only issue is I'm gonna have to take off the neck before I put this on, just because, as you can see, these the fretboard has square edges, and it's not gonna fit around the edge of this. So I'm gonna try and put the pickguard on, and then I'm gonna put the neck on after that, and we'll see if that works. Finally, just got done with redimensioning the pickguard. I had to widen this cavity by a lot in order to fit where this is supposed to go. This pickguard wasn't built to the same specs as this body and all these parts, so there's a fair bit of error involved. You can see that this is very polygonal. I did this with a file. I opted to try and smooth it out a little bit, but this is a big reason why I probably should have opted for normal sandpaper for this part instead of a sanding block. It makes it hard to kind of buff out, you know, the smooth curves into like a circular bit. But I actually kind of like the polygonal look, so I think I'm going to keep it. You know, I've always said I want this guitar to look homemade, and I think that it's accomplishing that so far. And if that means leaving my kind of shitty filing job, then so be it. I think it adds to the personality of the guitar, and so I'm going to keep it. Come on, get in there. There you go. All right. Problem with this pickguard and this body not being machined to the same specs is that the screw holes in the pickguard do not line up with the screw holes in the body. But if any of you are familiar with my struggles with this bass, then you know that mounting pickguards where the screw holes don't line up onto a different body is something that I've actually become sort of good at. So I'm employing the same trick here, using double-sided carpet tape instead of screws to secure this thing. This is probably a form of blasphemy in some, like, you know, avid guitar building circles, but I don't even care, because it's gonna work and it's gonna be fine. Okay, that's mounted. I think she's safe and sound. I think what I'm gonna do before I go any further is I'm just gonna test signal flow, make sure that all the electronics are working before I get all of the other stuff hooked on, because once the neck is on, the strings are on, it's gonna be a huge pain if any of the electronics aren't working properly, so I'm just gonna test that right now. Yes! Okay, bridge pickup is working. Motherfucker, I think I have the switches wired in the wrong order. So that means I gotta take off this plate and redo those connections. I must have wired them backwards. But that's why we check before we put the rest of the guitar together. Alright, let's give this another go. Just rewired this puppy, let's see if it's working now. Okay. Okay. Now, let's see, bridge pickup. Yep, that's definitely working. And yes, that's working as well. Okay, great. And that is why we test signal flow before we put everything together. Hell yeah. Okay, that might be slightly problematic. It appears that these screw holes are not lining up as well as I would like them to. So maybe I can bend this a little bit. It should just sit better. Alright, yeah, let's try that. Yep, that's already looking way better. It's amazing what a little brute force can do. That's cool. Yeah, no, right? It's coming together. Finally.
Yeah, the metal really does add a lot to it.
Yeah.
Also, the wood does go well with that. I don't know what it's called.
The pick guard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you think so. I thought it was a solid pick when I picked it. Hilarious, get it? I picked it because it's a pick guard, but I'm just... Alright. I think that's as tight as it's gonna get. Alright, here's the strap buttons. Alright, she's strung up. She's definitely not in tune. And there's, my god, the action on this is insanely high. So I'm gonna have to fix that. It's gonna be a little bit before this guitar is actually playable. Look at this. These strings are insanely high off the fretboard right now, which means it's just going to be extremely difficult to play. I got to do some adjustment on the saddles here in order to get this thing playable. So let's get these strings cut, and then I'll get started on that. So she's been set up. The action is not ideal. It's a bit higher than I would like, but I think with this style of bridge, this is going to be as low as it gets. But yeah, I think it's time to get her ready to play something. So without further ado, let's give it a go. Well, one thing's for sure, I'm not winning any awards for my guitar playing, but she feels pretty good. Yeah, she feels just like a Telecaster, and someone tells me that's all I can ask for. Just glad I got a working instrument out of this.